Malcolm? I decided we could probably use a presentation. How long will your presentation take on the status of the bonds?
5 minutes.
Oh, why don't you come on up here and give us that preliminary. Okay, as Martin comes up, let me say this, it's time for the pledge. If you all stand up, I'll lead you in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Okay, we have some newcomers here, so I'll tell a bit about our organization. This is the Houston Property Rights Association. We're now into our 20th year. We formed in 1992 to fight the zoning proposal. And our initial strategy was to get a referendum to defeat it, and with telling a long story short, we managed to do that, though we certainly had allies before that fight was over. And in the time afterwards, we managed to get another referendum to amend the Houston Charter, so now we have a high level of protection against zoning in the city. It's now in the charter that if we're ever going to see another zoning proposal, there has to be a complete ordinance written. That's not easy or quick to do, with maps produced, and then 6 months of debate and discussion before we hold that vote. That's a very high hurdle, and I don't think anybody will ever try that. Though other things are happening, they're eroding property rights all the time. And I'm circulating a petition dealing with the erosion of property rights, dealing with historic districts. And if you haven't seen that petition yet, it deals with a new proposed historic district called Germantown. I urge you to sign that so we can hopefully get a last-minute alteration. Where is that petition, by the way? Who's got the, huh? Oh, would you pass it to the table behind you? Okay. Thank you very much. So that's what we do. We get, now we've developed a habit of meeting weekly, and we've continued that. It's now about 40 times a year. We tend to skip the Fridays close to holidays and around Christmas time. We deal with all manners of local issues, tax issues, justice-related issues, transportation, highways, metro, and of course, property rights. And if you are not yet on our email list, you need to give us your email address so we can get notice to you on these weekly meetings. Now, before I forget, I want to mention that next Friday we're going to have, I think, a revolutionary event. There's a man well known in conservative political circles in Houston named Aubrey Vaughn, a pastor who used to have a church on Telephone Road that dealt with the homeless. And he moved out to Cleveland, Texas a few years ago and decided to fight the red light cameras in that city. And he realized in a small city of about 7,600 population, there's very few voting sites. And he can get volunteers out of a political action, he formed a political action committee out of a Tea Party group that he had formed. And they managed to get almost all the signatures they needed in one day on May 29th when they had the primary elections. It wasn't hard for him to get the other signatures. He had 6 months to get it done, turned them in July, and now they've been certified and validated by the city secretary in Cleveland. And they'll have an election next year to amend the charter to eliminate red light cameras in Cleveland. That idea of doing a one-day petition drive can actually be duplicated in many other cities across Texas. We've got about 1,000 cities in Texas, about 300 plus are home rule cities. So it's a way to start to reshape the local policies, have easy victories generated by a handful of committed activists who are strategic in their issue selection. And I think that can be a model for the country. So next week, we're going to have a presentation by Aubrey on how he managed to do that in Cleveland. I will supplement with a broader perspective on how this can change the country, because we have 30,000 cities in this country and 3,000 counties, and most are small population with a relatively small number of voting sites. So I hope to see you all back next Friday. Okay, let's talk about the handouts you have before you. I've given you, I think, 3. One deals with the 3 bond proposals we're going to see on the November ballot. Houston Property Rights Association has decided to fight all 3. Now, we don't really have the resources to make a big difference, but we think somebody should be able to offer a counter argument that the tax-sensitive citizen can be aware of to realize they don't need to vote for these bonds In the case of the school bonds that HISD is proposing, there may be some repairs there that are rather urgent, but HISD has a lot of cash flow. They also have the ability to issue short-term debt. Any serious problems can be dealt with. They can come back after being defeated and give us a more reasonable proposal next year that includes a lot, if not 100%, pay-as-you-go financing, and look more carefully at why they need to have, or I would think, trim back the proposal for $1.9 billion in new bonding authority. The last time we went through this with a bond proposal, it was 2007, and they still have not finished those bonds, or finished using the authority given them in that election. Houston Community College also has a bond proposal on the same ballot, and so does the City of Houston. Altogether, it gets very close to $3 billion. At a time of economic uncertainty, we certainly should be cautious about issuing new debts, particularly in light of the fact that we just went through an election 2 years ago dealing with the infrastructure fund that the City of Houston now has that was all tied to the idea of pay-as-you-go financing, which will save half your costs. So with that as a precedent, I would think that the city and the Houston Community College and the HISD should all be looking at pay-as-you-go financing as a way to save an awful lot of money. It means you get your projects on a slower pace, maybe 8 or 9 years as opposed to 4 or 5, but you get everything you want at half the cost. Now, we have with us Malcolm Brown, who's an expert in municipal bonds, and he's been monitoring what's been happening with at least one of the local public institutions that has issued a lot of bonds in the past, and there's some funny business going on, so I'm going to give you Malcolm Brown. Where are you? There you go.
I always hate to give a presentation after eating salad. You never know what's going to get caught in your teeth. So I'm just going to talk briefly about one issue in general, and then we'll just kind of apply that to the bigger picture, which is many other issues, those like the Port Authority and the Houston Airport System. The one that I've tracked the longest has been the the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. And the reason is I thought it was a dumb idea to begin with, because I knew that it never was going to be just a sports authority or revenue type based bond. It was no way that it would cash flow. So I've gotten on top of the numbers here recently. One thing that I did know that I knew was coming, I just didn't know what the timing was. But there was an issue, the first 3 issues, there were junior lien bonds. Essentially, they were guaranteed by MBIA. Now, guarantee has got many meanings. You have to look at the language to see what how it's spelled out. I have never seen it spelled out in this way. Essentially, guarantee means that if they default, then they get paid off. That's how we all think of guarantee, and that's how I've sold MBIA or MBAC or FGIC guaranteed bonds in the past. Essentially, what happens is the insurance companies pledge their assets. In this case, while it may have been told to the investors, and wasn't privy to the conversations and how they bought it, it really isn't a guarantee. It's just a performance bond. Essentially, what that means is if the ratings of MBIA drops below a certain rating from AAA down to, let's say, AA or whatever, then the bondholders have to be taken out of those bonds. So what they went and did at the time of the issuance, they went to J.P. Morgan, and J.P. Morgan, they said, okay, we'll be the standby facility that will buy those bonds for the investors to the tune of $100 million. Could be more, might be a little less, but let's say $100 million. However, those bonds were issued on a 30-year basis, and now J.P. Morgan has a 5-year note. We're 2 years into that 5-year note. We've got 3 left. Now, not only did MBI have problems, there's another company that took over MBIA called National and 3 other names behind it. National, unfortunately, or fortunately for the bondholders, but not so good for the bank, National has the right to make the payments for the coupons or the interest payments when they come due or any principal, but they had the right to get repaid out of the reserve or the reserve account that the Sports Authority set up. Once the reserves are gone, once they're spent, there's nothing to pay off these issues. None. Zero. Another irregularity that I saw in the Texas Municipal Reports, TMR reports, was the fact that there was $43 million worth of monies raised for the Houston Rodeo Association. I don't remember voting, or I don't even remember seeing it in the referendum that the Rodeo Association was an approved venue for those monies that the voters were voting on, which means to me that there could be fraud. I don't know for sure. We'll have to look and see what the referendum said and go back in the records. If it doesn't, those are questions that we have to ask the Houston Harris County Sports Authority. That's $43 million. So I went to a meeting yesterday with the Houston Harris County Sports Authority, and very coincidentally, the person that sat next to me was an attorney representing MBIA. Okay, MBIA, which means to me that there's probably litigation going on between the Sports Authority and MBIA. That's to be discovered and find out what it's all about. Now, how does that relate to other financings that the city is getting ready to embark upon, like the ones that we're faced with today and the ones that the Port Authority? The Port Authority, essentially, the deals that were done prior to 2008, the whole regulatory body of banks and brokerage firms have tightened up to the point where it's got to be a done deal, squeaky clean, in order to get it done. It can't come to the market. The Port Authority is trying to raise $1.2 to $1.3 billion, and they can't really do it, so they're going to 44 banks to find out if they'll finance them as a bridge loan. So essentially, if the banks knew that they were into technical default on bond issues with the Sports Authority, would the banks be willing to do it, or should the banks do it? We'll have to find out with these 44 banks if we discover that they haven't been told what they have to say. So if anybody wants to know more, I'll leave my cards and, yep.
We'll take no questions. We'll take no
Just
questions.
one quick little thing. Are there any trick questions on this ballot, or is just vote no on everything? It says-
No, Metro. You vote yes on Metro. They
Thank you.
made
On
sure
the
that if
ballot-
you
on the
hated
bond
them,
issues,
yes,
the city will
no
have
gives them all
5
the money.
separate, then HCC, the city will have 5 separate, and then the HCC will have 1, and HISD will have 1. Thanks, Malcolm. I think we're all gratified to hear such a technical explication of what's already happened, and it tells us, I think, how much can happen behind the scenes that we're never privy to. One thing I recommend that every city have a charter amendment that requires full transparency on the city website, including, I now realize, all the conversations, email and otherwise, between bonding authorities and city officials on what's going on with the bonds. There's obviously a lot to be learned if you become privy to those exchanges. All right, 2 other items before you. One deals with criminal justice reform. This talks about problems we have with the drug laws and the penalties that we have baked into our state and national policies that put a lot of people in jail for long times, oftentimes with something as petty as a trace amount of a drug. And what's interesting about this is that the very conservative group, the Texas Public Policy Foundation in Austin, has been pushing for reforms in this area, and they've been working hand in glove with the ACLU. They've made common cause. They see that we're putting out too much money for too little reward, and it's causing a lot of negative side effects. And the result has been that I think we've already saved around $1 billion in terms of estimated costs if they had made some reforms going back several years. And there's more reforms that will be discussed in the upcoming session. So this handout shows you how a handful of people can make a difference by pushing on a policy change. And then the backside gives you an example of a resolution that you can use for coalition building. And if you'd like to be involved in anything like that, please talk to me before you leave. And I also want to point out from 2011, one of the many stories we've had about the untested rape kits. Clyde Bryan has been working on this for quite a while, trying to get more interest in getting those old, some going back, 14 years, I think, untested rape kits. So that means just delayed.
3 administrations.
3 administrations. And the current administration says, we're going to deal with this. We're going to put a new tax on titty bars, and we're going to use that tax to test these rape kits. But everybody knows that the bar owners will go to court. That won't happen. That means that these rape kits will remain untested. And so it's, again, we have government spending money on non-essential things like bike trails and neglecting an essential responsibility. Okay, let's get to the main event, which is a forum between the 2 candidates for the district attorney. And if I haven't lost it here, I've got the bio of our first speaker. And this will be Mike Anderson, of course, who's been a judge and recently entered the primary, surprised everybody by deposing the incumbent, and he's here today vying for the final round, which will be in November. So skipping over this rather lengthy bio, he defines himself as a conservative Republican candidate, has been a prosecutor and a judge who's earned a reputation for honesty and integrity. He has 17 years experience as a skilled prosecutor, and he's prosecuted every level of crime, from misdemeanors to capital murders. As a special crimes prosecutor in the Major Offenders Division, he prosecuted the worst of the worst, at one point winning 11 consecutive life sentences. He's investigated and prosecuted 11 capital murder cases, all of which resulted in death sentences. Known as a tenacious prosecutor whose knowledge of the law and courtroom skills put criminals behind bars and assured victims that justice was served. Yeah, you come on up. As I finish reading your bio, you can walk up here. We're going to give you 12 minutes to tell your story. He has 12 years experience as a state district judge. He's presided over thousands of cases involving serious felonies, including capital murder, kidnapping, child abuse, sexual assault, and drug and property crimes. In 2009, he was elected administrative judge by his fellow judges, and in this position, he was instrumental in the creation of a Veterans Court, the Public Defender's Office, and the Third Mental Health Court. He's a native of the county, born and raised in Pasadena, graduated from Pearland High and Texas Lutheran College, has a law degree from Texas Southern. Active in
No.
Texas,
South Texas.
I'm sorry,
That's
South
okay.
Texas.
That's enough. You don't have to say anything.
South Texas College of Law.
You're
He's
gonna say-
active in his community. He has volunteered with the Special Olympics, Big Brothers and Sisters, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, Habitat for Humanity, and he coaches youth sports. And I think that, he's married, and he has a wife and 2 children, and he's a member of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. I give you Mike Anderson. Mike, you've got 12 minutes.
Did that count into my time?
No.
Well, thank you all, first of all, for allowing me to be here. If it's okay with y'all, I may move away from this podium, and I'll try to speak loudly enough.
Well, that'll screw up the video, so please don't.
Okay, I'll try not to screw up the video. All right. Okay, I'm your guest, but I want to thank you for being here. It's an honor to be standing before you as the Republican nominee for Harris County District Attorney, and you're going to have some important decisions to make in about 54 days. And either I'm going to be the District Attorney of Harris County or Lloyd's going to be the District Attorney of Harris County. So you'll have to decide which one of us you feel is best qualified for that job. And I thank you for taking time out of your day to come here and find out about us. It's so important that citizens care enough to put their personal and private lives on hold to find out firsthand about the views of candidates so that they can tell their friends and neighbors who are going to listen to what you have to say about who they feel is best qualified. So I'm thankful that you've asked me to be here. And on behalf of myself and Mr. Oliver, I again thank you and welcome any questions that we'll have as we get on. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself that hasn't already been said. The most important thing is I am married to Devin Anderson. That's the and she's here, former Harris County District Court judge, and we have 2 great kids. And that honestly is my most important job. I am so blessed to be in that position, and I take that really seriously every day. But let's talk about this job. I'm in about a 9-month job interview, and I think it was said that it surprised everyone that I won the primary. It did not surprise Devin Anderson that I won the primary, or Carol Anderson, my mom. I'm very thankful. A lot of people worked really hard in that campaign. We had support from folks in the district attorney's office and law enforcement, grassroots activists, folks that wanted to just find out what was going on down there at the office and what they could do about it. So I'm extremely honored and humbled to be here before you. As was said, I was a judge for I was a district attorney for 17 years. Best years professionally of my life. The last 10 I was in special crimes. And it was a tremendous opportunity to work hand in hand with police officers and work on cases from the ground up. You'd get a phone call at 3 in the morning saying, we've got a dead body over here on this side of town. We need to have some help on the law. We need search warrants. We need court orders. We may eventually need grand jury subpoenas. Will you sign on? You bet. And I got to work with some of the best cops that have ever come through Harris County or the city of Houston. I did that for 10 years and rose to the level of a chief felony prosecutor in the Organized Crime Division of Special Crimes. It was a great, great honor to work there. And I worked for Johnny Holmes the entire time I was at the office. He hired me out of law school, and I worked for him for the 17 years that I was there. In fact, he's endorsed me in this race, as has former District Attorney Carol Vance. And I'm so honored that I have the endorsement of a very strong conservative Republican and a conservative Democrat as well. Mr. Vance has been very helpful as I've gone through this process, and I've got his cell number, and I've called him many times about some of the questions that arose during the campaign, and I'm very thankful for his support. I was a district court judge for 12 years. I sort of term limited myself. I thought, you know, I think you can do a job too long, and I felt like at the time I said 10 years, but I wasn't doing the math properly. You know, they're 4-year terms, so that would be 12 years, and so I decided that I did not want to become stale on the bench. I did not want to go to work and feel like I've done all this before. And so I left the bench before that occurred. I wanted to leave at the top of my game. We tried more cases than any other court in the courthouse every year. Tried over 600 felony jury trials as the judge of the 262nd. And I was proudly one of the drug court judges. And that's an important part of our criminal justice system. If you've never seen a drug court graduation or a drug court docket, you need to come down there, because people that are addicted to drugs and are in and out of the system day in and day out, and they just go and they get arrested, they go back in the system, they sit in jail for 30 days, they get back out, they go, and the only thing they want is more crack cocaine or more methamphetamine or more heroin. And so they wander around in our neighborhoods, they make property values go down, they break into garages, they do these crimes that may be called petty crimes, but they're not petty when they happen to you. And they're not petty when they make your neighborhood's value go down. And you see that people that can't sell their houses anymore because they're crack dealers hanging out on the corner. These are the people that we deal with in drug court, the addicts, not the dealers. And they get their lives back. We give them the opportunity, and they do. And we've had over 300 graduates from that program that are working, paying taxes. They have their lives back. They're back with their families. They're still addicts. They always will be, but they're in recovery, and they're part of society that we can point to with pride. That was a great, great time. And we have 4 drug courts. There's graduation quarterly, and I really highly recommend that you go. Walter, have you been to one of the graduations?
Not as a defendant.
Well,
I leave that up to my friend Lloyd.
okay. Well, well, but you've been to,
They're great.
yeah. Well,
I mean, just as you're great.
well, I appreciate that, Lloyd or Walter. Sorry. Anyway, I highly recommend that you go to one of the graduations and see what goes on there. You're going to feel good about things that are going on down there at the courthouse. And why am I running for district attorney? I had a great career as a prosecutor. I had a great career as a judge. We worked really hard in that court. We kept the docket down, the lowest of any docket in the courthouse. And that's largely because of the great staff that we had. Some real good prosecutors came through the court, really good defense attorneys, and we got the job done. And I was satisfied with that. And I was moving on to other things. And I saw that things at the district attorney's office were just not as they should be, in my opinion. And others in the courthouse family approached me and said, "These things aren't going right, Mike. They're not doing it like they're supposed to do it down there. They're not following the law. They're prosecuting selectively. They're not enforcing laws that are sent to us from Austin." And I honestly was in denial for a while. I said to myself, well, things will turn around and it'll get better. Well, it wasn't. And I became convinced that it was one of those things. I mean, I grew up in that office. I was given a job by Johnny Holmes out of law school. And I met my wife in that office. I became a man in that office. I grew up there. And I saw that it was going downhill, and I saw that I could offer help to that. And I have nothing personal against the incumbent district attorney, absolutely nothing. But it's like standing outside a building that you owe and feeling like you can either walk in there and do something about it, or you can just walk off and just ignore it and act like it's not going on. That's the main reason I'm running for district attorney, because I want to fix what's broken there. There is a bad problem between law enforcement and the district attorney's office. That needs to be fixed. And I'm not saying cops are always right, and the cops that have worked with me over the years will tell you that I don't say that. But when we disagree respectfully, and we disagree based on the law. And when we agree based on the law and the evidence. And if they don't have enough evidence, I tell them that, and they go see if they can find enough evidence. They go back and reinvestigate or broaden their investigation. And that's the way it should be. And you as citizens deserve no less. You deserve to be able to rely on the laws that are sent down here from Austin as codified in our penal code, and you deserve for the district attorney who takes an oath to follow that law to do so, and to do it to the best of their ability. And that's what I think needs to be happening down there.
2 minutes, Mike.
Thank you. There needs to be a feeling of integrity about that office. You shouldn't scratch your head and look at the paper and say, what's going on down there? And I can guarantee you the Chronicle is not going to agree with me all the time. Never have, never will. In my interview with them, they didn't endorse me, but I guarantee you they didn't endorse me, but they will never forget that interview. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. But you as citizens deserve to know when you get up in the morning that you don't have to think about the DA's office. You don't have to wonder about the DA's office. What's going on down there? It ought to rise and set just like the sun. It ought to be integrity should shine forth from that office like a heartbeat. And it shouldn't be something that anybody has to worry about. It should be taken care of. And you ought to be able to live your lives. And if you get hurt by somebody, you're going to be treated fairly in court because you're going to have good people carrying the ball for you. If you're charged with a crime, you're going to be treated fairly. And it may be fair as life in prison, but if it is, that's what you're doing, not the DA's. So it's an important calling. It is a calling. And there are 250 people over there that are trying cases for all of you right now. The district attorney is your lawyer. I would like your support. I would like to step in to that office and make the changes that need to be made and make that office something that you can stand up and be proud of, that you can know justice will be served no matter which side of the table you're sitting on, and that it is transparent and you are invited to come watch us work. And if we can do better, we're wide open for suggestions. I don't believe I have all the answers, but I know this. I have the enthusiasm, and I have the commitment, and I have the passion for this job. God bless you for having us here today.
Thank you. Well, I forgot to mention we actually have an elected official here. We have Helena Brown sitting at this table to my left. Helen is a member of HPRA and has been for several years. Okay, they're going to bring up Lloyd Oliver. Lloyd, I searched the internet. I think you have a murky past. I couldn't find anything there about you. So I'm going to ask you to give us your background, if you would.
Thank you, sure will.
And
Okay.
here's a microphone to use.
Thank you.
This man wanted to get you on camera.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I think someone called it a checkered past. I read that in I think it was the Chronicle. Or another one said I was a loose cannon. And I am a loose cannon. Oh, I guess I always will be, folks. To introduce myself, my name's Lloyd Oliver. And I, too, grew up in that Harris County courthouse. I graduated from law school in 1976. And I grew up in the old Harris County Criminal Courts building over there at 301 San Jacinto. I've had some great times there. I tried some very, very good cases. Before that, I spent 4 years. I worked for the Harris County Sheriff's Department. That's how I put myself through law school. And I'd go to school at night. Didn't make very good grades. Kind of hard to hold a job and study the law also. But the new courthouse, I grew up in that too. We all grow up there. We all learn something every day. We have a continuing legal education we have to do every year, so many hours. There's so much education for lawyers in that courthouse.
you learn every day. I've been learning since before 1976 something about justice, and that's what I do best, is justice. I've defended everything from traffic tickets to murder cases. I've tried more cases than I care to remember. I get a headache thinking of some of them. I probably have 5 or 6 of them set for trial now, and I represent people. I represent people just like you. I represent the people of Harris County. I represent the citizens of the state of Texas. And again, I've been doing it quite a while. I'm pretty good at what I do. You don't tell my clients this, but if they didn't pay me, I'd probably do it for free. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love it. I love helping people. I love representing people. I want to represent you people, we people. I see a number of people here in the audience that are old friends of mine. You understand, I once was a Republican. I'm the Democratic nominee for district attorney. But I once was a Republican. I ran in the Republican ticket for, 3 or 4 times in any event. Had some great memories and, well, some good times also. But again, I'm now the Democratic nominee for district attorney. And before I go much further, I guess we all read in the paper here the last few weeks of the hard time the Democratic Party was giving me. And I defended your right to vote and your right to make a selection. It appears that the leadership of the Democratic Party suggested that even though I won the primary, that was not their candidate. It sounds like something we hear that, well, what's his name, Putin in Russia? He might do in his country, but I wouldn't let him do that here. And so I stood up for myself and for you, that you can't steal our election. I'm not going to let you do that. We had to go to the federal court to get an answer, got bounced back down to the state court to get an answer, and we were right all along. So it was us, we the people, 3, and the Democratic leadership, 0. Democrats aren't really bad people. I think it looks to me like most of the folks in here are old-time friends of mine are Republicans. Democrats aren't bad people. They got some bad leadership, and sometimes they're not always right. But I would like to think that this office is not contingent upon your faith, your religious beliefs, nor is it upon your politics. That you're a Green Party candidate, or you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a Libertarian. I wouldn't think it'd be any of those. What you want to see is the chief law enforcement officer of this county to do a good job, to do a great job. The Houston Property Rights Association, what is this property? I was watching TV last night before, some crew that's took on a neighborhood, was breaking into homes and tearing up things. I think some home invasion stuff. I'm sure you all saw it on TV. I don't recall the subdivision, but what I could tell from seeing the background, it appeared to be an upper class, pretty affluent neighborhood. And why is that? Why can they get away with that? How can they get away coming to your home, your castle, where you feel the most safe and the most secure in any place that you can be? You go to sleep there at night. You put your head down on the pillow, and you can sleep safely. You sleep soundly because you feel secure. How can we feel secure when that kind of stuff is going on in this neighborhood? Just a question of time for the rest of those stinking criminals out there figure out what to do. Let's go to those neighborhoods and with a crew and let's clean up. And they do. So while you're out doing what you're supposed to do, you're out earning a living to support yourself, to support your dependents. You're doing the right thing. They're out stealing from you. They're out breaking into your homes. I guess it's just a question of time before they commit some other crime that we don't want to mention, all kinds of other things they could do. So far, I don't think anyone's been killed yet, but that too is just a question of times. That is why I have problems in my neighborhood. I've never seen a police car just cruising my neighborhood. I'd like to see that sometime. Maybe where you live, you see that occasionally, but I don't. And I live in the inner city. And I wonder, why not? Why not? Do we need to hire more policemen? The answer is probably not. We got more police than we got citizens sometimes, seems to me like, but there's priorities. Should we enforce the law? Yes, we should, but there's priorities, are there not? I'd much rather see someone cruising your neighborhood, my neighborhood, certainly where we suspect these crews are operating, or we think that they're operating, or where they are operating. I'd rather see them cruising those neighborhoods, protecting my home, my children, my property, that's, and while I'm at work, I'd like to see that. But they're not there. Where are these policemen? And where they are is that we're prosecuting little crack pipe cases. Little crack pipe cases. Let's follow the law, by golly. If the law says we put them in prison, let's do so. But a crack pipe case, that's called trace amounts. My opponent doesn't care to. He wants to prosecute those as a felony. I don't. I'm going to prosecute them as a paraphernalia case, a Class C misdemeanor, maybe, or some form of misdemeanor. It takes 4 hours to arrest that person. A policeman's time. I don't know how much it costs in the court system to arrest that person with that little trace amount. So instead of us focusing on little crack pipe cases, little trace amounts of drugs, why don't we focus on your neighborhood, your property, and your property rights? Because it's not just those crack dealers hanging out the corner that devalues your property, where it has, well, it devalues your property, but also devalues your property when you can't sell it because everyone in the neighborhood has burglar bars on their house, right? We've all drove through Houston and seen that. Some pretty nice, affluent homes. And what's there? Burglar bars. Makes you wonder who's in prison, who's living in jail. We are, if we got to hide behind those stinking burglar bars. Let's put the policemen on the street, not busting these little crack pipe cases. I've never lost a crack pipe case in defending a criminal. Why? Because it's such a small amount. You find people will convict someone of an amount of drugs that you can't see. It's a trace amount. Or if you can see it, you need a microscope to see it. You just won't convict. But two, sometimes it's what trace amount of drugs they do find, it's used up in testing, because certainly the state is entitled and should test it to guarantee that it is a controlled substance, and so should the defense for the same reasons. There's nothing left to present to a jury. It's gone. Why would we prosecute something like that? Why would we prosecute victimless crimes? That's also done. If there's no victim and no one wants to pursue it, gosh, don't we have something better to do? Couldn't your tax money be used for something better than that? I submit to you it could and should be. In addition to my, 30 or 40 years trial experience, I've graduated from that place down there, Harris County Criminal Courts. I like to call it the School of Hard Knocks, because that's sure what it taught me. I've been, seemed like I've lost some cases I should have won, and I've won some cases maybe I should have lost. It's taught me a lot. Again, that's where the continuing legal education is, there in that courthouse. But that is the School of Hard Knocks. Something about my past. I came here in Houston in about 1970, I believe it was, 69, 70, with the intention of going to law school, because I felt that to be my calling. I enjoyed helping people, and it looked to me like you could help a lot of people doing that. And I've been here ever since. And gosh, I guess I'm stuck here, right? But again, it's my intention to help more folks. The way I look at it, you can help more people doing this job than you can what I've been doing, and that's what I want to do. I want to represent you people. Some of my supporters are not bonding companies. They don't contribute anything to my campaign. I'll guarantee you that. If a bonding company contributes a lot of money to the district attorney's office campaign, what do you think they want in return? Favoritism, right? I don't accept contributions from special interest. So I am the loose cannon. I'm not the establishment candidate. I'm the political outsider. And I care to be that. I'm that by choice. What do you think if some law firm gave a sum close to $50,000 to a candidate for district attorney? What do you think they expect in return? They expect their money's worth, I would imagine, some kind of favoritism. But when that happens, that appears to me to be a form of bribery. That's almost criminal. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't tolerate that from our candidates. Something that I don't do. I don't accept money from lawyers in the amount of over $250. So they give me little checks for $250, and that's good enough. The rest of it, if I can't do myself, I don't deserve to be in office. I don't owe anyone except you people. And I want to represent you people. I want to make you proud of me. I want to do the best job I can. I'm probably the hardest working lawyer you know of. Isn't that right, Mr. Boyd?
Absolutely.
I got Mr. Boyd's endorsement. Thank you.
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. I've made no promises. I don't represent special interest. Something I do represent is you people. I want to continue to represent you people. I'm not for sale. This is my campaign slogan. I want you to look at it. If I can. How about this? Not for sale. That's my campaign slogan, and I live by it. Again, I'm honored and pleased that you folks invited me here, and I'm just so impressed that this many people give a darn enough about this little race to be here. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Before we move on to the Q&A, I'd like to mention that we have in the back as a late arrival, Pastor James Nash. He's the co-founder of the Houston Ministers Against Crime. And I think you'll see him active on at least one of these bond proposals that are now starting to generate some controversy. And next to him on the stairs, higher up, but that doesn't mean very much in this case. I'm sure he's very much a co-equal with all of us. We have Dave Wilson. I've already given you Dave's handout on the Houston Community College bonds. And if you need a presentation of what's wrong with HCC and how they're misspending money, talk to Dave. He's got a great slideshow to show you. Okay, now let's bring up the two candidates, and we can go into Q&A, and we're going to do this in an informal fashion. I'll simply select hands, and we'll direct questions to the appropriate person. Okay, okay, Ron. Ronnie.
I would like to direct this to Mr. Oliver. On August 13th, 2012, the Houston Chronicle said that there's an alarming trend in break-ins and burglaries. And one of the things that was said was that we never catch these guys. Now, we did catch one of them. He's a burglar, a thief, a liar. And 4 of our finest police officers were charged with public oppression in that case. And 1 has been already tried and found not guilty. My question to you, given the nature of this article and my view of the video that I see, where I see a burglar, a thief, and a liar being caught, why is that not at appropriate force to obtain a guy who has burglared a home and might have a gun? Thank you.
It's a question to me.
It is a question to you. Why, when
Please use the
you see
microphone.
that video, why do you say that they used more than proper force?
Well, I guess it depends on, if it was my home, it was not enough for us.
Right.
Right? We feel that way, don't we? If it was my home, it wouldn't be enough for us. Unfortunately, we have to follow the law, and sometimes the law just makes terrible mistakes. When you got a bad set of facts like this, a bad set of facts like this, and then you have to follow the strict guidelines of the law. And sometimes the system, the attorneys, the judges, the DA's office, they don't break the law, but they bend it somewhat. And we do the very best we can in the justice system, and it just falls apart. So why should these people go free, or why should they be punished? Someone that breaks into my home again, where my babies sleep, or where your babies sleep, I'm not sure there's a punishment too harsh. I don't think we should lynch them. I don't think we should do that. But I think it should be a first-degree felony. Unfortunately, it's not anymore. Our legislature saw fit to change that. But it should be at least a 20-year sentence, should it not? 20 to life for coming into my home or my neighbor's home. Don't burglarize my home. Don't steal my property. Please don't harm my children. So there's not enough punishment.
Okay, I think that's probably says it. Do you have a response to that, or anything you want to add? No, okay. All right, question number 2 over here on the right.
I have a question for both candidates regarding domestic violence. Mr. Oliver, I've heard you speak on the radio and on television regarding your opinion that one of the ways we could solve the problem for some of the domestic violence situations we have is to put a woman who has been victimized by the man, and I believe your terms were a boxing ring, and teach them how to box instead of prosecuting those cases. So my question to you is, are you kidding? And I would also like to ask Mr. Anderson whether or not he would see a different viewpoint on that, and why. Why do we prosecute cases where the woman doesn't want to cooperate? Why would we do that?
Would you like me to answer?
Yeah, I guess,
Okay.
I think it was directed to you first.
Directed me first?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I have a case pending now. Two nice people. Pour a little gasoline on that fire in the form of some, that Who Shot John or some kind of bourbon whiskey they were drinking, my gosh. And they're two angry people to begin with 3 children that are teenagers, and they've been together since 15, 16 years, and they're both a little crazy. And their idea of lovemaking is, I guess, to beat the hell out of each other. They do it all the time. And and they bring me pictures of this lady, and I saw her in court. She looked terrible. He didn't look too good himself, because they do this all the time. Now, what do we do with a case like that? Whether it's some poor woman getting beat up or some man getting beat up, you know, if equal means equal, I guess we got to take the sex out of it. When someone is beat up, what do we do with it? And the other party does not want to pursue it. Do you want to waste your tax dollars on that? Or do you want your neighborhoods patrolled? I think we're back to priorities. There's no excuse ever for violence like that. And a family, especially in this family I'm talking about, there's children. They're teenagers. They're so impressionable. You two idiots, if you want to fight, why don't you go get in the ring somewhere and leave us taxpayers out of it? Your children don't need to see this. And whoever wins or whatever you guys do with it, that's your business. So a boxing match, I don't know. Maybe that's the only remedy for people like that. I, again, would much rather see those patrolmen in your neighborhoods. We'll put our money there.
To add on to that then, Mr. Oliver, is this. If those children in that household were either sexually or emotionally or physically abused, would you ask them whether or not they want to prosecute those cases too?
Well, not those kind of cases. You're asking another question now. You know, okay? Any child that's sexually abused in that household, or my household, or yours, again, I don't know who the perpetrator is, but I wouldn't show him much mercy. I wouldn't want to set in judgment in a jury in a case like that. One of the questions I ask a jury is, you know, if any reason at all why you couldn't be fair and impartial. You couldn't, and the answer is, if I were the jury, if it has to do with a child and sexual or physical abuse of a child, I couldn't be fair and I couldn't be impartial. I presume if you're charged with it, I'd probably find you guilty. Just find another juror, because I can't be fair in those kinds of cases. So, sexual abuse of a child, I don't know, they make a tree high enough to hang them, the way I feel about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If I remember the first question correctly, it was something about, Mr. Oliver had said something about that domestic abuse victims ought to get boxing lessons, or is that the question, the first? And you know, domestic abuse is a specialized area of the law, and the dynamics of an abusive relationship are different than many other types of cases. And a domestic violence victim oftentimes is beaten down over a period of time to where they don't know any better. They cower, and they're afraid to come forward. Maybe they come forward at a time when they really believe their children or they will be killed, and this has finally reached a boiling point. But then the next day, they want to back off. And it may be because of financial reasons. It may be because of just the fact that they're beaten down. But the state of Texas, the district attorney of Harris County takes an oath to follow the law. And the law says that if a person is a victim of domestic violence, then that case should be vigorously prosecuted. And it should be looked at, and we don't make a decision based on what taxpayer dollars are going to do. It's about public safety, folks. And you put your taxpayers' money forward to hire a district attorney that will ensure public safety. And we'll see about women who just can't come forward. I tried a case one time where a man shot his wife in the head holding their 7-week-old baby, and she would not testify on the stand. Well, I brought her there anyway. And unfortunately for her, this happened in her mother-in-law's house. So her mother-in-law, with her gold fingernails this long, I filed charges for this guy breaking into that house to commit aggravated assault, and the mother-in-law testified. And you know what happened to him? I asked a jury. I said, folks, you tell me what we do with some situation like this. We've got a woman who's been beaten for years. She's had the life beaten out of her. She has no life. What do we do with this case? Well, they told me. They told me loud and clear. They gave him life and a $10,000 fine, aggravated. And he's going to die in prison. And God bless him for it. So we give it to the people to decide. When we have a case like that, the answer is you give it to a jury. You investigate it. You do everything you can. You turn over exculpatory evidence, and then you put on your big boy pants and you go to trial. And you see what the citizens of Harris County think about it.
Thank you. Okay, Bert, did I see your hand up?
Oh, yes, sir.
Your hand is down. Okay, John.
I had a kind of little story happen maybe a year ago or so. One of these streets that's curves over here on the west side of town, by one of the bottoms, I think it was Braeswood or something. An officer was traveling along there with his lights on at high speed without a siren on. He comes around a curve and he runs into a couple who are just coming in from the airport at 2 a.m. and kills one of them. I believe she was a professor out at one of the schools here in town. And I'm just kind of curious about, I never heard a word about that officer being prosecuted for doing something that if I had done it, driving a high rate of speed along a river, thing with no warning or anything, I would have thought it would be manslaughter. But I never heard a word done to that officer.
Okay, question for you, Lloyd.
Thank you. Thank you. Nor have I. I've heard nothing about that. But certainly, anytime you do something stupid or illegal, there being a big difference there, but you do something illegal, you should be prosecuted. That carries over to police officers too. It's set up now that when a police officer pulls his pistol and fires someone, it's presented to a grand jury. I had a couple of clients once that they were fleeing a police officer after some kind of attempted burglary or something like that, and he fired at him 3 times trying to get him to stop. And one of the occupants of the car was firing back, was the reason he fired at him. And they investigated that police officer, I think, more than they did my lousy clients, all right? And all he was doing was, at that point, firing in self-defense. And that's the way it should be, I guess, because we expect more of police officers than they do of you and me. And when they violate the trust that we place in them, then let's run them through the grand jury. Let's do something with them. It's out of the thousands of police officers that roam Houston, Harris County, there's so few bad apples. We are so blessed that that's the case. But public safety dictates that some things we should take some priorities, not seat belts, not crack pipe cases, and maybe not some man or woman getting to a spat over nothing and no one's hurt and no one wants to prosecute. Please don't take him to jail. I've heard that sometimes. Please don't take him to jail, but they do it anyway. Public safety requires your neighborhood to be safe, your neighborhood to be safe, your home to be safe. Put it in special priorities. And seatbelt tickets and things that where there's no victim to a crime, let's put that where it belongs. I'm not saying we should not follow the law, but we should certainly be selective. Certainly be selective.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Mike?
I'm just going to respond briefly to the part about following the law and being selective. You elect somebody to do a job, and it's stated, it's in the law, what the district attorney is supposed to do. And the law is also written. And if you don't like the law, you go up to the legislature and you change it. And then the district attorney will follow that law. But when the district attorney decides to be selective and decide which laws to follow and which laws not to, you know what the district attorney becomes? The king. Because the king gets to decide what laws to prosecute and what laws not to, and what friends to not prosecute, and what friends to kind of let slide, and what enemies to prosecute. No place for a king. What you need is a district attorney. And what you need is a district attorney that will follow the law and will do the job as it is written in the law. Now, as far as the police officer that was running with his lights on and hit a woman, I don't know enough about that case to intelligently talk about it. I know that if a cop breaks the law, he's subject to prosecution just like anybody else. Doesn't get special treatment one way or another.
The thing was that I went out there and looked at it, and the basic point was he was coming around a curve, and they were turning into their area where their houses were, where their house was, and there was no way for them to see him and no way for him to stop in the distance given, so he was going too fast for circumstances.
What we have here is a citizen investigator. And giving you new facts.
Well, that's the best I can answer that question for you, sir.
Okay. All right, okay, Linda.
I have a question for both candidates here, and I'd like to address it to Judge Anderson from an integrity of the office standpoint, and for Mr. Oliver from the standpoint of the safety and defending the public, and representing the public. And my question is to describe, if you would please, the system of checks and balances and oversight of your 30 or so assistant prosecutors that you will put in place to protect us from overzealous prosecutors, prosecutors who might tend to hide evidence or to not reveal evidence, particularly exculpatory evidence. For the benefit of those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the situation of Mike Nifong, who prosecuted the Duke lacrosse players, ended up with the district attorney going to jail. And, you know, we currently have in the news the allegations against former prosecutor Kelly Sigler. So if you would describe, both candidates, if you would describe for me the system of oversight that you will put in place to protect us from that.
Well, let me say this first and foremost. If I had a prosecutor that knowingly hid exculpatory evidence, I can't think of a situation under which I wouldn't fire him. There may be something out there I hadn't thought of, but I don't know what it would be. What you have got to do is build in an overall attitude, an overreaching policy of integrity. And you've got to make people understand, from the top down, that if you work really hard on a case, and it may be a big publicity case, it may be splashed all over the paper, and you may be on the front page, and you look at it, and the more you look at it as a prosecutor, the more you find exculpatory evidence, and the more you find this just isn't right. There's something wrong with this. We have got to look at this. And the more you look at it, the more you find the right thing to do in this case is to dismiss it. Well, you've won. You've won because you have done the right thing. You have done justice. And that's what every person in that office needs to understand. And I don't know how you can just think 30 people could govern that. That's got to be something that everybody that walks through that door understands. And that if you dismiss a case because you did hard work and you uncovered evidence and it's the right thing to do, I'm with you. That's the way it's supposed to be. If you take a case and you work it up and it's a hard case and you in your heart believe the right thing to do is to try it and you fall short and the jury cuts them loose, I'm going to stand by you because you were trying to do the right thing and you were trying to do justice. And 30 people can't make that happen. It's got to be all 600 people at that office. That has got to be something that permeates every desk, every office, and the entire building itself.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there's a number of things we can do to change the law. We can go to the legislature. I'm not know if any of us here have made a trek to Austin to change too many laws. So let the legislature. Sometimes we have to do things ourselves, do we not? If we're going to prosecute every criminal that breaks every person that runs a red light or a seatbelt, let's just get out a checkbook, ladies and gentlemen. The property values are going to go wherever they're going to go, and your property taxes, we know what's going to happen to them. Because this is not free. If you want to put a lot more people in jail and not give them rehabilitation, not try to rehabilitate some of those drug dealers, then get out your checkbook, because we're going to have to build more jails. There's going to be a bigger prison industry, and we're not going anywhere. We're not solving the problem, if you will. The integrity of the office. My gosh, what a question. Let me tell you about a friend of mine. Her name was Patricia Lycos. You know her. That woman gave her life for Harris County. She worked as a policeman, if you didn't know that. She was one of the first women policemen, I would imagine. She wore a skirt when she started being a policeman, because they wouldn't let them wear pants yet. And then she took the bench, done a very good job at the bench. She got elected there, She got elected district attorney's office here, put in some, she's a Republican that made some very progressive changes, one being the trace policies, the other being this other program, Divert program it's called. It's where your son gets a DWI, and he can work a probation and a rehabilitation so that it can get the case dismissed. So there should be some way where we citizens that do something stupid, an isolated case of stupidity, we can get that exonerated from our criminal history. It never leaves your driver's license. There's always a record of it, but you don't have a criminal history. So that some young kid that makes a stupid mistake, we all make stupid mistakes, can go on to get a decent job, to get in school, to move on to a decent life, and not have that as an anchor on him forever. Some little girl that does something stupid like a little shoplifting, isn't there some way out for a good citizen? This needs to be done on a case-to-case basis so that when they have a long criminal history, that's just not available for them. The integrity of the office, though, Patricia Lyko said there was some integrity. There was some integrity. She done more for her gender than any woman in Harris County, any judge, any prosecutor. She was our first female district attorney, is that correct? Yeah, first. You know, Harris County is the third largest county in the United States of America. What a job to do. Do you know it's there's more people here live in Harris County than 24 states of the Union. And we're the biggest county in Texas. We drive Texas, Harris County, and Texas drives the nation. It's a good job. It's a great job. It's an opportunity for me to do a lot of good. And I'd like to be able to follow in the footsteps of Patricia Lyko. She was a Republican. I'm running as a Democrat. She's my hero. And I'm sure you read again, in the Chronicle, I heard something about that. I made a complimentary comment to a vanquished opponent there and was punished for it. Well, I may be punished again if there's any Democrats in here listening to me, by or Democrat leaders in here. I may be punished again, but I'll continue to say when a public servant does a great job, all the way from senator down to the clerk of the court, whatever their political stripes, I'll pay them a compliment. We've got to take the politics out of the DA's office. Do you know what it takes to train those prosecutors, how much money it takes to train and educate them? And every time there's an election cycle, half of them get fired? That's just not right, because it's costing us money. Some other system other than this, get out your checkbook, ladies and gentlemen. The budget's just going up and up, and it's not free.
Thank you very much. You've doubled down. Okay, Walter.
Oh my goodness. I want y'all to pursue this business of Lycus. And also Kelly Seeker. She was my candidate. And Lloyd, I'm certainly going to disagree with you that Pat Lycus was a good judge, but leave that aside. She may have been a very good district attorney, and I want to pursue that with you. What is your difference between Pat Lycus and are you taking her on? And where do you think the Pat Lycus people should go? And the last thing I'm going to say, you know I've endorsed Lloyd Oliver, my very good friend, for many years, but
I'm very thankful for that.
And I just want to recognize your wife, Devin Anderson, because she was an excellent prosecutor, very good judge, in my opinion. And I
still love you. I still love you, Lloyd.
You're a pretty good guy.
Thank you.
Let's get some. Never mind.
What was the question?
I want you to tell us what your differences with Pat Lycus were, and I want you also to get into. I'll just put it provocatively. Are you bought, paid, and sold from the police department?
I'll ask you that. I'll ask you to answer that, Walter. You've known me for how long? 30 years?
Well,
can you imagine anybody that could ever buy and sell me?
No.
Anybody.
No.
Anybody you've ever met.
Only I could.
Now, you could run me off, but that'd be about
I
it.
just want you to answer it. What
Absolutely.
connection to the police?
Well, the police.
What's got you into this?
Well, I don't know that I'm into anything, but the bottom line is, if I may now begin my answer. First of all, I do have the endorsement of law enforcement, and I'm very proud of that. They were very upset with the fact that cases were not being filed that were written into the law. And you got to understand, this business about not prosecuting small amounts of drug use, that's what drug users do. They smoke small amounts of crack cocaine, and then they break into your house. And they're going to keep doing it unless they get arrested and get treatment. I'm not saying you stack them up like cordwood in jail. There are other options. You know, if you get arrested for a small amount of drugs, you automatically get probation on your first case. Automatically. And you get treatment. That's in the law. But if you turn your back on that person's going to continue living under a bridge, eating out of a garbage can, and stealing anything they can take off your front porch or your garage. And your property values will continue to plummet, and you'll continue to have to put burglar bars on your doors and windows and live in custody. So that's the point. That's how you fix that problem. And it is the law. Now, what's the second part of your problem?
Well,
You don't remember, do you?
Well, I was so mesmerized by your response.
Well, thank you. I was meant to mesmerize.
You know, Lloyd, we've been down there. The criminal defense lawyers have pretty well drawn a circle because they around Lloyd Oliver. I'm not as fond of him as some people are, but he's my good friend.
Well, good.
But I want you to know, they are making a play for Lycus voters. And I know we've got you here tonight, and we've got some people from the Lycus administration.
Okay, fair enough.
Are you going to go after them, or you saw the way Lloyd's sucking up to it? Are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
Well, I am not going to suck up to anybody. However, I am hopeful that by the time we get to November, that I will have the support of Patricia Lycus. I'm hopeful of that. And any disagreements that we had in the primary are long past. And I know she is a strong, strong Republican, as am I. And we had our differences during the campaign, but if the shoe had been on the other foot, I certainly would have shaken her hand and wished her well and tried to help her any way I could. We just had some differences of opinion. And believe it or not, Walter, you and I might even have some differences of opinion, but we still like each other, and we still be civil to one another, and we can still, in a given case, be on the same side. Sticker there, buddy.
All right. Historic handshake.
There we go.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Okay. I'm not sure I can top that one, folks.
I have confidence in you.
Thank you. But yes, Walter is my friend. I took him home for Christmas one year. This is not part of your question, I guess. I took him home for Christmas one time to see his brother. His brother lived in such a nice house in Dallas. He wouldn't let me take him up to the front door. He wanted me to let him out on the street. So, and you should have seen this guy. He said he was going to catch a ride with me to Dallas. He's got this mangy dog with him that takes up the entire back seat. Him and his mangy dog trek into his brother's house. I still remember Walter. It's a long time ago. Good friend of mine, Walter. Sometimes he's a little crazy on us, but he's still a good friend of mine.
You want to shake
Yes,
your hand?
That's an endorsement, right?
That's an endorsement here. You don't want to fix that. That's need to shave a little closer, Walter. My opponent is a pretty good guy, and maybe you saw something of that in one of the publications. He's a pretty good guy. He really is. I disagreed with him when he was on the bench. He was. If you've never practiced in his court, he's somewhat of a tyrant, and I don't know how to say it any nicer than that. You know, when you're a few minutes late for court, you get your bond revoked. They squeeze you. They put you in jail. You take probation or whatever else you do at that point. That's just not right and just fair. Nor is it when I don't know of any defense lawyer worth a flip that would go to Judge Anderson when he's sitting on the bench to go to him for punishment. They go to a jury for punishment. And why? You're going to max you out. I think it'd be some kind of malpractice to do that. So he's a pretty good guy, yes. Off the bench, he's a wonderful guy. Today, he's a wonderful guy. When I walked in, he was gentleman enough to shake my hand and wish me good luck. That's what kind of man he is. He's a good man. I think his wife, Devin, was a better judge.
Lloyd and I finally agree on something.
When she was a prosecutor, she too evaluated a case for me that I was representing an individual in. And she said, after a couple of months of resetting it, she said, I'm going to dump this. And that's what she did, just like that. She was a good prosecutor and a good judge. And my opponent, Mr. Anderson, I'm afraid would make a better prison guard than he would a district attorney. I'm sorry, I can't change the facts. And as far as me, if we give these little drug users a criminal history, your son, your daughter, your neighbors, they're going to be a criminal forever. Darn it, we've got to have a program for that. We've got to have this divert program where they can work themselves out of that silly conviction. We got to get, as part of that program is they have to go to drug rehab. And only give it to them if they got a clean criminal history, no priors. There's got to be room for that, so that your grandchildren are not branded forever as a convict or a criminal because of some isolated case of stupidity. Good people do some very bad things. We have to make allowances for that. As far as me sucking up to the Lycos people, I sure am. I would like to think of myself sometime as a Democrat, maybe sometime as a Republican, maybe sometime as neither one. So yes, I would appreciate your support. I also like to think of myself as a pretty conservative guy, maybe a conservative Democrat. Now that is a Lewis candidate, is it not? Yeah. A pretty conservative Democrat, and that's what I am. And again, I'm asking you to elect me as your district attorney. I'll make you proud of me. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Anderson would like to make a 30-second response. Rebuttal, I think.
First of all, I'm not going to call Mr. Oliver names. I think that's a childish approach to running for a very important office. It's funny to sit around and talk about a campfire, or shooting pool, or something like that, but the stakes are too high here. If you came in my court, you were treated fairly. I followed the law, and if some guy comes dragging in at 10 o'clock, which oftentimes lawyers would do when we'd have to call them and get them down there, then that client who had agreed to be there at 9 o'clock would get a warning, and if he was there a second time, then he would get his bond revoked. You bet, and I don't apologize for that. That's the way you run an efficient court. If that's being a tyrant, then I think we're way too soft in this room. I followed the law, and if people came to me for punishment, they got what punishment they deserved based on the facts. And if they'd done something bad, they were going to get a bunch of time. And if they hadn't, and we could find a way to rehabilitate them, as drug court shows, that's what we did. But I do resent the name calling. I think this is too important a race to have some childish list of names, and I'll just not stoop to that. God bless you for caring enough to come out here, and thank you for listening to what we had to say.
Okay, I think we see some more hands. Lady over, I don't recognize you. Who are you?
Hi, my name is Catherine Evans. My question is for Mr. Oliver.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, on numerous occasions you've made statements that the only reason you entered this race was to boost your criminal defense practice, and that you'd never had any aspirations to actually be the district attorney here in Harris County. How is it that the voters could possibly believe now that your heart is actually in the right place to perform such an important job?
Would you please use the microphone, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Sound like a personal attack to me.
Judge, thank you. The only folks that can run for judges are lawyers. The lawyers, that's the only ones that can run for office. Isn't that terrible? Well, and Congress is different. So we have lawyers can only run for judges once our whole criminal justice system works. Lawyers who do not run for office are derelict in their duty as an attorney. They should do that. Keep those darn judges honest. Give them a Democratic opponent. Give them a Republican opponent. Give them a primary opponent. Give them an opponent in the general election. You darn right. They stay there too long. We get judges that apparently, this is my court. You don't do this in my court. It ain't your court, Judge. It belongs to we the people. And that's the way they treat it, their little serfdom, their little fiefdom, their little castle. And that's not the way it should be. They're there because they stayed there too long. They become part of the problem instead of the solution. And you can't. And follow the law, there's nothing in the world wrong with following the law. But you also, there's a sword, if you see that lady of justice with the blindfold on, holding her sword. There's two edges of that sword. And one of it's just plain justice. You got to do justice. If you ignore that, you're just not a very good prosecutor, you're not a very good district attorney, and you're a lousy judge. And you're a lousy lawyer. You have to do that. That's part of what makes this country so great. So is it good for business? Listen, I've ran for office against some judges that should have never been there, but they were there and they just done terrible. Yes, I did run against. I've run several times against Republican judges, Democratic judges, to keep them honest. You know, I brought about some changes in their attitude and justice. I know I've done that. And is it good for business? I think there is some name recognition there, but the byproduct of it is I get to a lot of good clients. And again, please don't tell them, but I would represent them for free if they didn't pay me. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy doing justice, and that's all this is. And experience, I think, may have been part of your question, or qualifications too. I mean, how hard could it be doing this job? Chuck Rosenthal done it? Come on now. I mean, how hard could? Was that Kinky that said that? It was Kinky Freeman. How hard could it be, folks? Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
I've never been in the private practice of law, and I'm not advertising for the private practice of law. I'm asking you to make me district attorney because I want to serve you, not myself. Don't want to get my name on the top of the stationery. Don't want to call it Mike Anderson's district attorney's office. This is your office. I'd be proud to represent you in that office. When people come and hurt you or steal your things or cause legal problems for you that are against the law, I'd be honored to do that.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I thought you'd finished.
Well, okay. I almost am.
Okay.
I almost am. This is a tremendously important job. And yes, it is a hard job. And anybody that thinks it's not has no idea about what it means or what it will take to do the job. I am telling you, this is a hugely important job because it affects each and every one of you. Over 4 million people look to the district attorney for protection and for representation when they've been wronged under the law. And they should expect no less. And they should not expect somebody who makes a joke of the job or uses it for advertising. Folks, it's a hard job. And anybody that says it's not just doesn't understand it.
Okay, we're down to our last 5 minutes. The gentleman here, I don't know you, but go ahead.
I have a question for
This is
Mr.
the DA's
Oliver.
office. The DA's office has a lot of,
Really?
asking
Plans.
questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Oliver, I
so what?
have a
We
question
support it.
for you based on
You're
an
the
issue.
district attorney's office.
Yes, I am.
Right? Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a question based on an issue you brought up earlier, and I think this group would be very interested in. You referenced the high-end residential burglaries that are going on in the Houston-Harris County area.
Yes.
What is your game plan for prosecuting those cases? And what kind of roadmap can you set out that these listeners here would be interested in hearing on how you're going to attack these high-end residential burglary rings that are operating in the Houston-Harris County
Thank you.
area?
That's a good question. Very good question. Thank you. I think I answered that though, didn't I? I mean, let's put the cops. Okay, he doesn't believe. But let's put the cops in your neighborhood streets. Let's put that cruiser up and down your street. That's where you live. That's your home. That's what you want to protect. And also, let's take those the breadcrumb sins, if you will. Let's prosecute those too. But let's have something selective about it. Let's get some priorities there. Okay. This certainly is illegal and wrong to be driving down the street without a seatbelt, but and I'm sure the city of Houston needs the revenue. But come on now, is that really what it's about? It's about protecting Houston homeowners, is it not? The Harris County homeowners, and this is a much too important job to not do that. You're entitled to that kind of protection. You should have. But what kind of roadmap? Let's put those cops out there on the street, not writing traffic tickets. All right. We can't ignore the traffic tickets. Sure, you got to prosecute that, but some priorities. That's all I'm asking for. Who would you rather have for the district attorney when your grandson gets arrested for a little usable quantity of marijuana? Who would you have representing you in the DA's office? Who? I ask you that question. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You asked for a roadmap,
Yes, sir.
right? I think that's the question. There are always going to be groups of burglars. They're always going to be trying to steal your stuff. that you worked hard for and that you have accumulated during your lives. That's just a fact of life. The way we dealt with that when I was in special crimes in the organized crime division is we worked hand in hand with HPD, undercover, plainclothes detectives. Getting out on the street in a patrol car ain't gonna stop a burglary, okay? It's great, and I mean, I love seeing a cop car drive down my street. I know all the cops in Bel Air. I keep trying to get them to write tickets for people that run stop signs in front of my house. They haven't started that yet. But you find out who the burglars are. You use intelligence. You use informants. And you get them from the inside. Patrolling up and down the street is not going to get it done. And the 11 cases that we were talking about that Casey O'Brien and I got life sentences on, 8 of them were burglars, career burglars, that we nailed over in the Meyerland area, in the Southwest area, and then up north. And that's how you do it. You get them from the inside, you follow them, you catch them coming out, and you nail them right there with the property, and you put them back in the pen for life. That's the way it gets done.
Okay, this woman here.
Hi. As a young attorney, I just want to thank you guys for coming out and making this forum available for us to ask questions. I've noticed over the last few years at Harris County, the number of death sentences that the prosecution seek has dropped drastically. Harris County, I think, is moving away from its title as the capital of capital punishment. Mr. Anderson, you said that you, I think, were involved in 11 capital cases in which you prosecuted death sentences. So I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on that trend and the reduction of death sentences that the prosecution is seeking. Do you think that if elected that would continue to decrease since we do have life without parole as an option? And second follow-up question, I'm really curious to know why Mr. Oliver is running on the Democratic ticket and the reason behind that change from Republican to Democrat.
I can't answer the second question. The first question, I don't know. The cases that I worked on in which the death penalty was sought, each case is different. The victims that are left in the wake, and the decision is never made lightly. And even in a situation where, my wife tried Rafael Resendez Ramirez, the rail car killer that killed all those good people just for sport. And even then, when you stand before 12 people and you ask them to come back with the ultimate punishment on somebody, it's never taken lightly. So each one of those cases, we looked at the facts surrounding the defendant, the criminal history, severity of the crime, its effect on the public. There are so many things that you've got to look at. And definitely, life without parole has changed things. I think there may be different philosophies depending on who's in the district attorney's office. I just know that, I just promise you this, I can't imagine ever having a case where the death penalty would be taken lightly or be used as some political battering ram. It is using any talents that God gave you to ask 12 citizens who in good faith came to judge a case to give the ultimate penalty. So it's always got to be safeguarded. It has got to be looked at under a microscope. And you've got to have a system set in place so that it is never, ever taken lightly.
Okay. I'm not sure about your second part of your question, but let me answer the first part of it. In my almost 40 years of practice, I've seen some animals out there that the only reason we're able to sit here without our guns in our pockets and a guard at the front door is because there is a death penalty, folks. You can sleep secure in your home tonight, and your property is pretty well secured also because there is a death penalty. There's some animals out there, they don't understand anything else except that if they do this crime, if they, in addition to burglarizing your home, they rape your child, they do some horrible thing like that, there is a death penalty. And I say, thank God there is a death penalty to stop that sort of thing. If they know that if they do that, that's what's going to happen. If they're stealing your property, they shoot your wife. Thank God there is a death penalty. Those kind of people need to be locked up, need to be put away, and I don't know how to say this. There's just, again, not a tree high enough to hang those kind of people. Your second part of your question was about, I'm sorry.
I was just curious, your reasoning for moving from, you said you ran 3 or 4 times on the Republican ticket and now are running as a Democrat. I was just curious as to your reason for making that switch.
Reason for running as a Republican? Well, at one point that myself and a few million other people, the Republican Party kind of deserted us there for a while, and I'm sorry that it just didn't represent our views anymore. And we got a president from another party. We got a lot of folks in that were elected that were, because that's what the people wanted apparently, because they voted for him. Well, things have kind of changed. But again, why Republican and why a Democrat? At one point in time, I think I know my grandmother wouldn't let me come to the family reunion and eat in the living room because I was a Republican. Maybe eat out on the porch, that's okay. But that was, back then, Lincoln was a Republican. Know that? Lyndon Baines Johnson was a Democrat. There's some good people in both parties, there really are. There's some rascals there too. Sometimes the leadership is less than perfect. But again, this is an office where whatever my religious affiliation or my party affiliation has not a lot to do with it. You want me to protect you. You're entitled to protection. You want me to do the very best job I can. You don't want me to leave the courtroom at 12 o'clock and not come back. You don't want that. You don't want to leave the office at 12 o'clock at night, not come back. The judgeships up there are a full-time job. The district attorney's office is a full-time job. And I can promise you that I'll work full-time for you folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're always going to wrap this up. I want to recognize Jim Doherty as a Democratic candidate for Congress in the 2nd District. We're going to do that. And I've got a question for the two candidates.
Tom Sullivan. Judge Tom Sullivan.
I'm sorry, Judge Tom Sullivan. Oh, there you go. Okay.
You have done so for a judge as well? Yes, sir.
Is that? Okay. Well, we have more people here than I recognize, or people of note. I've got a question for the two candidates, dealing with the issue of the capital punishment. We've had a lot of evidence lately about bad convictions, bad witness testimony, and even defendants who will confess when they're actually innocent. So in light of that, what is now recognized to be a problem nationwide, I'm going to ask you, the Democratic candidate, and by the way, I understand your point that the Republican Party left you. You didn't leave the Republican Party, right? The party changed, and that's why you had to change. But come over and tell us about how you deal with the fact that we now know that witnesses are not reliable, even the defendant is not reliable.
You know, the expression amongst lawyers are the worst kind of evidence is eyewitness testimony, because as to what color this pen is, in 10 minutes there may be 15 opinions as to what color that pen is. Our eyewitness testimony there's so many things just not reliable. We all see different things. We all have a variety of life's experiences, and we see the facts differently. There's a lot of cases that are we solving now that, thank goodness, there's some innocent people that are been incarcerated for a long time, and because we got something scientifically new that'll exonerate them. DNA evidence, isn't that wonderful? Maybe one day we could somehow drill into those criminals' mind and find out whether they've done it or not. Right now, only they know it, and God knows it. We don't. We never will. So as this develops, I mean, I don't think there is a perfect justice system. There's not, and I don't think there ever will be, except the heavenly justice is shown one day experience. So I'll do the best I can with what tools we have here in this world to make sure the criminals go to jail, go to prison for a long, long time, and the innocent people, we do what we can for those people to set them free. And those that are somewhere in between, again, like you folks, some allowances have to be made for dumb people that just do dumb things, as well as smart people that do dumb things. All good people make mistakes. Let's make some allowances for good people.
Let me refresh. What do you say? Recognizing the problem with unreliable witnesses' testimony. would you actually send someone to the death chamber knowing that's a problem?
Well, I think as a prosecutor, your duty is to convict, is the oath, and do justice. So, if the evidence is not reliable, let's dump it. Let's dump it. But what if it's a horrible fact situation? Some child's injured or murdered. What do you do with something like that? I don't know. A jury is the only one who can know that. And the only one could make that decision. So, in a close case like that, where the evidence is reliable, the law says you as a prosecutor have to turn evidence over to the defense counsel. Let them, this is what we have, these 10 items that will show this man is guilty. Give them an opportunity to examine it. You have to do that. If the evidence is not reliable, then maybe it's one of those cases you have to dump, but you hate to. Maybe it's something you could work out in the form of a lengthy prison sentence instead of something else. Maybe it's a probation case, something you could do it to get some kind of justice out of it. It's unfortunate that so many guilty people go free, and it's also very, very unfortunate when innocent people get punished.
Okay, thank you.
How hard could it be? That's a huge, huge responsibility. And I mean, you can't, I'm sorry, but I don't think you just walk into a situation and believe that an eyewitness is going to be unreliable, and then all eyewitnesses are unreliable. I think that's irresponsible as a district attorney. I think you have to gauge each witness by the testimony that they bring, what other evidence corroborates that testimony, and to rely on that, and then you take it to a jury. So if you do have a problem about a sneaking suspicion, you flesh that out, you find out about it, and you do everything within your ability, within your power, to bring all the evidence in one basket to the table and give information to a jury that will guide them in their decision. But I mean, if you believe a witness is lying, well, then you certainly have a responsibility to turn that information over to the defense. If you believe something isn't right, you have a responsibility to turn that over to the defense. But I do think it's irresponsible just to go into the thing believing it just because there's somebody that's an eyewitness that they're wrong. Somebody steals your car when you walk out there and you see them drive off in it. Well, let's say it's Walter. You know him. You see him steal your car. Just because that's the only testimony you have, am I not going to take the case? No. No. You know how it works, Walter. I can't.
You understand my point.
I understand your point.
I'm not saying that witnesses are
I think you have to take that into
I'm saying
consideration.
They may be confident they're right.
I always suspect that it was Walter.
He likes your car. He was mentioning earlier he thinks you have a very nice car.
Something. I'm a member of the advisory board for Crime Stoppers of Houston, and this is where people can come on difficult cases and be anonymous and give testimony about what happens.
Is this going to be a question?
Yeah, nope. I'm telling you that eyewitness testimony can be very, very good. You go to 222 Tips, and they give it anonymously. You can't be subpoenaed. They have to get corroborating evidence. Okay. Our greatest reward was given on a case out in Clear Lake where there were 4 or 5 Clear Lake High School students, former Clear Lake High School students. Somebody called in and said, I know who did that. That was an eyewitness, okay? They then got corroborating evidence, and they found those 2 people that so brutally murdered 4 people in their home in Clear Lake. Eyewitness testimony can be used in a capital punishment case.
Can Ronnie tell about the raffle tickets for crime?
I've already sold all mine.
Thank you all very much for having us here today. We really appreciate it. I think our time's up. Is that right?
Oh, I want to take one more question.
Okay.
All right, Lewis.
I'm just a doctor, don't know anything about the law, but I have read that miscarriages of justice have occurred because of the pressure of attorneys and prosecutor's office to obtain a lot of convictions. Their career depends upon the number of convictions, withhold, exculpatory evidence, and so on. Is that not true?
It's not, it will not be true in the Harris County District Attorney's Office if I'm the DA, and it was not true in the Harris County District Attorney's Office in the 17 years I was there. It is to do and a prosecutor's job is not to get a conviction. It's not what it says in the law. The law says it is to do justice. And if justice means a dismissal, then that is what you do. No sirree, Bob, that is not the way it is.
Okay.
And if I could respond to that, probably it's been so long since my opponent read the oath to convict and do justice. Maybe that's part of the problem. And if you think, and you're correct in what you presume, it's called scalp hunters. There's scalp hunters out there. They're like policemen getting tickets, giving away tickets to motorists. They keep score. You bet your life they keep score. You get a prosecutor that doesn't produce that, they're not going to stay very long. I don't have a problem with that. But if that's all it is numbers, there's something wrong with it. And there has been that since I've been practicing law. There's been that, and maybe from someone else's view, they don't view it as keeping score, but that's all it is. Now, rightfully, again, when I'm elected district attorney of Harris County, I don't care what your political persuasion might be. You're not going to lose your job just because I'm there. I'm going to hire a first assistant. It's going to come from within the district attorney's office. All right, keeping score. If you don't produce, guess what? I'm afraid you're going to have to find another job. Maybe we can help you find another job. But scalp hunting, no, we're not going to do that. Again, dump it if it's a bad case. If it's a good case, you go to the wall with it.
Lloyd, we're going to wrap it up. Would you take 20 seconds to give us your closing comments?
Closing comment. I thought I've been doing that for a while. Well, maybe I should wave and let Walter do my closing for me. Ladies and gentlemen, just 20 seconds to do a closing. I don't think I can, except, again, honored that you people are here, just honored. And it's an honor to be here. Well, talk to you folks, and I hope to see you again at the polls. At the early voting polls. You'll see me there at the early voting polls, and you'll see this.
Will you have a sign with you?
Sure do.
Well, how will we recognize you by your sign?
You'll see this. You'll see this. You'll see my sign. And I want you to remember this. I represent you. I'm not for sale. Endorsements I don't need. All right? Bondsmen don't give me money. Lawyers don't give me $50,000. Don't do that. I'm not going to take it. I represent you, we the people. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank you for being here. It's an honor to be talking to you. I want to be your next district attorney. I promise you can look at my website, talk to anybody around that comes around the courthouse, ask about honor, ask about integrity, ask about doing the right thing, and ask about hard work. It's hard to sit up here and be polite when somebody's just basically making stuff up that has nothing to do with you. Now, I'm trying to be a polite guy, but I've never left that courthouse at noon and not come back, except for when we had kids and they were born. I've got people in here that worked in my court. They'd cuss me because we'd work till 10 o'clock at night to get the jurors' time taken care of so they didn't have to come back the next day. Now, the bottom line is, folks, you need somebody who has experience, who does think it's a hard job, and who understands the job and is not doing this on some kind of a lark. I want to serve you as district attorney. I would appreciate your vote. I would appreciate your support, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Please visit my website, MikeAndersonDA.com, and you can find out more about me. God bless.
Thank you. Okay, that's it. I want to thank Walter Boyd for helping me set this up. Next Friday, we're going to have Aubrey Vaughn in here to talk about this revolutionary way to play politics to win. Next Friday. See you next week. Thank you all.
Would you tell them when it'll be on TV?
We don't know when it'll be on TV. It'll be on Houston Access later.
88.7. 88.7.
That's all of us. He's another Barry, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Do you have a membership form or anything?
treasurer. That's Steve. Steve, yeah.
No, I'm still thinking. After this debate, I'm gonna wait. Yeah, let me. You did a good job. He invited me.